Okay, Matt. Do you agree personally, and as a forum, that it's important that the starting price continues to be returned from racecourses as opposed to an industry SP?
Um, this is a big question and a thorny question, and the short answer is I don't know. I've given it a lot of thought, and I don't know. I think there are some. I have some reservations, and the forum has some reservations around the independence of both the collation of the sample and the delivery of the prices, all done by the same entity, all independently audited by the SPRC's friendly legal counsel. I think it all feels a little bit covert and a little bit cosy at the moment. Now, there may very well be nothing to see there, but the way it's been presented as there's nothing to see here, it gives me a degree of discomfort, and I just think it should be a slightly more open process. There is another question about whether the weight of money on course, certainly outside of the big meetings, and the SP being returned from there is something of the tail wagging the market dog. There is a question about whether the prices on course reflect money on course or whether they reflect exchange prices. There are a number of questions about the relevance of SP now. The problem is what would be the alternative? And that's very, very difficult, and that's why I get to I don't know. So I personally have, and I think the forum has, some issues with the way the SP process currently, and we'd welcome opportunities to discuss that with the relevant bodies going forwards. Hopefully that will happen. I really don't know. It's almost better the devil you know than the devil you don't for now, but I think it's an area that deserves some keen focus in the not too distant future, because I think everybody would acknowledge that the vast majority of money is moved off course rather than on course these days.
Okay, going to be sick of hearing about FOSLAS, but I did read on the website, you mentioned that the punters were advised it was possibly best to steer clear of betting on course at FOSLAS until whatever was happening there, which is described as a bit unusual, was sorted out. Now, on the 21st of June, during Royal Ascot Week, only the rapid diversion of a bookmaker from Royal Ascot to FOSLAS to join his two colleagues saved the SP saved them being no SP return, which would have meant an industry SP coming through the back door. Is it either fair to the racecourse or all the bookmakers or even the industry to advise punters to steer clear of somewhere because of misdemeanours in the past?
Well, yes, I think it is fair for us to do that. Our duty of care is we represent British racing bettors, and our duty of care is to them primarily. We have achieved whatever we've achieved so far from being reasonable in the main, and from trying to engage in good conversations with the relevant parties, both, as I've said, within and outside of racing. In terms of steer clear, that was very much based on this 50% outlier that we've talked about already, and I think it could be argued that on-course bookmakers at FOSLAS have a duty of care to their customers to offer a provision that is more attractive. It could be argued that the racecourse should be doing more to support them as well. I think it's very rarely down to one individual or one group. It's normally a collective situation. Excuse me. In terms of the rerouting of the bookmaker to make a quora sample, that is a concern, certainly. My assumption, and I don't have any evidence to support this, but my assumption would be that they must have been close to that situation previously, and perhaps the Press Association, who do the returning of SPs, or the racecourse itself, should have been managing that situation more carefully. With regards to an industry SP sneaking in through the back door, I personally don't see that happening. I certainly don't hope it doesn't happen. As I've said, I think the whole notion of starting price and how it's arrived at needs review, and I think all parties need to get together on that and stop pretending there isn't an issue there, because I think in terms of relevance in this day and age there probably is. That's probably enough to say on that.
Okay. Everybody, it seems, in the Horse Race Bettors Forum is very proud of what you have achieved so far, especially starting from year dot not very long ago. What do you consider the best achievements have been so far?
I think we have achieved a fair bit. I think Simon Rowlands, my predecessor, was a very good and respected leader, and with his foresight, we've been able to foster these good relationships that I talked about earlier. I think that's the key, really, is that we, we're not running around shouting the place down. We recognise that we're always asking other people to give us something, and when we're doing that, we're asking people, we're not telling them. Specific achievements, we've been heavily involved in things like more and better data, so we've got proper racecourse measurements, we've got rail movements being more accurately described, we've got wind operations declared, we've got a crackdown on non-runners. All of those things help bookmakers as much as they do punters. They make it a better understood conundrum, puzzle. They make it a more attractive puzzle, generally with a bigger number of runners. So although we unapologetically operate on behalf of British bettors, I think we've done a fair bit of legwork for bookmakers there as well. Alongside that, we are working on our charter, which covers a broad array of ground, and we've already in the background done quite a bit of work with operators on that, around certainly the minimum bet liability, but also things that the Gambling Commission are focusing on now as well, like problem gambling and anti-money laundering, and unfair terms and conditions. Those things are in train. They're all long game issues. We can get a bit of data in without too much pushing and pulling, but some of these other issues are a bit more contentious and take a bit longer to get from nowhere to somewhere. So a lot of what we're hoping to achieve is in transit, we might be better judged on those in a year or two's time.
Matt, you mentioned that you represent the punters. Now, I don't think anyone, especially in the betting ring, would say that there's quite a few tricky punters out there, whether they're pretending they've bet a different horse, or they gave you a £20 note when it was a tenner, that sort of thing. Do you think that even the bookmakers get pilloried if they make a rick? Do you think the punters get lambasted enough if they're caught pulling strokes?
Well, I think okay. So the first thing, the main thing to say here is that we represent fair-minded punters. It's very clear and explicit in our charter, which is on our website. Again, it's not the final version yet, but it's very close to the final version, and this point certainly won't be changing. We are unambiguous about the fact that it's a two-way street, and we expect punters to treat bookmakers with respect as well. That is the core message here. So yes, we recognise that often there might be a bit of skullduggery on the part of the punter, and we certainly don't condone that or support it.
So now you're the chair of the Horse Race Bettors Forum. How long does that last?
Good question.
Oh.
I took over from Simon in March. We had a meeting earlier this week. And one of the things we discussed was a refresh. We need a couple of new faces and new voices in the group. My stint in the chair probably will last at least another 9 to 12 months. Depends on a variety of things. We're all volunteers, so we all give of our time freely, and it's it's not a minor undertaking, I can tell you that. But yeah, I'm here for the foreseeable anyway, and I hope to be supported not just by the excellent people that I have with me at the moment, but also by a couple of new faces in the near future. And we'll be going out publicly with an invitation to join us probably in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, so finally, what would you personally like to see achieved as your priority on your watch?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing for us at the moment is the charter, which covers a lot of ground, as I've said, and I'd like to see. I think there are a few bookmakers, a number of the points in there. Most of the bookmakers satisfy, both on course and high street and remote. A couple of them are stumbling blocks, perhaps. The feedback loop is one. Minimum bet liability is another obvious one. But I hope that we will, in the next 3 to 6 months, get some traction on that. And certainly by the end of this year, I'd be disappointed if we didn't have early adopters, let's say, of our Betters Charter. That's going to be the main thing that I'm charged with carrying forward on behalf of the forum.
Okay, Matt BISOGNO, thank you very much.
Pleasure.